Welcome everybody to the Teacher Squad podcast, Spring Term 2024, episode 1. What have we got coming up, Jane?
Well, we're back and I want to talk about a school that makes it with kindness.
Oh, I like the sound of that. I think there are going to be some mentions of pans, presents, and agent provocateur.
Oh, sexy. And I want to know, really, and our guest is going to help us. Do we have pen licenses? Should we have pen licenses? Is it a yes? Is it a no?
And then maybe towards the end, we're going to be doing some irons and lions. Shall we get started?
Yeah, let's rhyme for the whole podcast. Or not. I don't know, yes or no, pen licenses. So much to talk about. Let's get on with it. Oh, Heather, it's a new term. It's new you. Have you got some New Year's resolutions? What's going on?
No, I'm not really good at keeping New Year's resolutions, so it's a no for me. What about you? Have you got New Year's resolutions?
Well, they're my same resolutions, which is get me bum down the swimming pool a bit more, which is basically make sure the kit's in the car, get out the bloody house. I am actually going to cry when I want to cry a bit more. I'm going to be a bit more vulnerable.
Okay.
I did less holding back the tears over Christmas because if I wanted to have a cry and I was doing the washing up and I was supposed to be happy, I just didn't pretend. I just had a little cry, and that's quite interesting because it gets on people's tits. But I'm going to go for that. Bit more real. So
Does
yeah,
it
there was a
ruin the
lot of
Christmas spirit? Is that why you were
it
waiting for the turkey? Is that what the tears were for?
just doing a lot more crying. Yeah, the family don't like it, but Sodom. So yeah, that's me really. But all in all, I'll tell you what, I am loving new starts and new terms about which I've loved my whole damn life. It's new stationery.
I
I
knew
just
that's what you were going to say.
Did you know that? Oh my goodness. And I have an academic diary that I buy every year, and then I don't keep it. I start a new diary at the new year just because I can.
Just because you
So
can.
yeah, because it'll have got on my nerves that I'd have written in an ink that has bled through the paper. So any excuse to get a new diary, I know. So yeah, new term, new stationery, and I think if you're a teacher, we've all got those little stationery bits and bobs that we love, and I love buying beautifully stationery. And did you know there is a pen awards every year?
No.
Like a yes,
What for,
a
like a
national
snazzy pen?
yeah. And do you know what the criteria is? It
No.
is it comfortable in your hand, honey? Does it have writing smoothness? What
Mm.
is the level of ink smearing? Does it does it bleed through the paper? And can it be used by a left-handed writer?
No.
And do you know I know. Do you know which one? Do you know? I'm going to tell you now. I'm going to tell all the teachers in the universe. The pen that won is a ballpoint, not a
Okay.
roller ball, because ballpoints are going to be less smeary. And the winner is the Uniball Jetstream retractable. And here it is. I'm holding it up here.
Sounds
If
like
you
a
get a chance
rocket.
to have a look. I know. I don't know. Yeah, it's like
And is
it's
it
the
good?
rocket. It is. It's, think Jetstream, think Rocket Gush. I mean, that is lovely. It's a total delight. It is very smooth. It writes without a hiccup. And, I have got, for the first time in my life, my new diary. I got it for Christmas. I didn't even buy it myself. All I'm saying is somebody knows me really well. Thank you, Mr. C. I got a moleskin diary.
Ooh. Colour.
And so, well, it's practically moleskin in mole's breath. That's all I'm saying. An an on trend sort of nude brown. I've got my jet stream. Do you know what I mean? I'm raring. I'm
You're
raring,
ready for
babe.
the new terms. Is that what you're grateful for, Jane?
I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful until I walked in the house tonight with my handbag. There was an exploding pipe, and I think I might have some water wrecking my new diary, but I can't even look yet. I've gone into denial. So, yeah, bit gutted about that, but we'll see. We'll see. Are you
Hopefully it's
grateful, honey, for anything?
well, you know me, I'm always grateful. I've always, looking for lots to be grateful for. Small things to be grateful for that, cheese and chocolate don't hold any calories over the Christmas holidays. You did know that.
You Are you eating these together, Heather?
Um I'm not going to say I'm averse to that, but no, not eating them together. But Christmas is a time for enjoying all that kind of stuff, isn't it? And not really like grateful for loads of presents. In fact, didn't get any presents, Jane.
What?
We
Did you
decided not to do
not?
presents, but you know what? I'm totally cool with that. I'm a bit of a kind of hopeless or hopeful romantic. Enjoyed all the joy and the priceless things and giving and laughter and all that kind of stuff. And in the sales, we treated ourselves to not one, but two new pans. I mean, rock and roll.
Do you mean like non-stick Teflon things? Did you say pans or pants? Because like this is a big.
I'm not as glamorous as to get exciting new pants, Jane. I never did. I wouldn't be telling you about them on here. I'm talking.
Like, listen, babe, the rate you're going, you'll need marriage guidance counselling if you are prioritising flipping pans over pants. I'm worried about you, babe. Honestly, it's not
Listen,
going to last long.
it's a
Tell you.
Jamie Oliver walk and a hairy biker's cast iron frying pan from the middle of Lidl.
Listen, babe, and I tell you what, if the glamour pan is the middle of Lidl, right, you and me are going to have a little
Listen,
talking to.
I am that glamorous. I am the middle of Lidl aged. But really, Jane, I tell you what I was really grateful for. Lots and lots of live performances and theatre. We did quite a bit of kind of watching performances over the holiday, watching my daughter. I know talked about the Frozen. Oh, amazing. Just chills, just gorgeousness. And when the voices just come together in that harmony and there's just some magic. That was nice. Went to see the Wizard of Oz when we were up in
Oh,
Liverpool, and the Vivian,
oh, wow.
Vivian off RuPaul's Drag Race was
Oh,
the Wicked Witch of the West.
oh,
Brilliant
wow.
performance. I think it's touring, so it's coming near you guys. Go and see that. That was such a good baddie. Went to see Jack and the Beanstalk, New Brighton. Had the director who'd worked with my daughter was performing in that. Absolutely
Wow.
brilliant. And then the best one, back down here in Cornwall, tiny little theatre space, a memorial hall in Mousehole.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Mousehole Cat, the book.
Oh, yes.
The
Oh,
story.
beautiful. Yes, yes.
Oh my goodness, that is worth a trip to Cornwall for. If this beautiful company called Cousin Jack's, and there are just 4 performers, and wow, what they create. It's just, I'm going to keep going, even when I haven't got a child to drag there with me. I'll just be sat in the corner like some old weirdo lady enjoying the performance. But those are the things that filled my heart with joy over the holes, Jane.
Oh, Heather, I tell you what, I mean, you look like you've done the real meaning of Christmas as we exchanged Apple iPhones. So, yeah, I think you've probably got it right and we've got it very wrong over here. But
I'll put some
yeah.
nice pants on my wish list, though.
Yeah, I would, babe. I would.
Maybe
Otherwise,
this
you
year.
are gonna you're gonna go to theatres on your own and you're gonna be much weirder than you think you're gonna be, honey. Oh,
Thank you
dear.
for the marriage guidance. Shall we move on to
Yeah.
sentence of the week, Jane? You've had a bit of
Yes.
thinking time, you know.
Oh,
Have you
yeah. I mean,
distilled
I
it
have
down?
been
What have you
thinking,
got?
well, there's we had a lot of data come out at the end of last year, and the DFE has announced, and you can find it on the DFE website, that actually we're not doing very well with teacher retention, and we're finding it really hard to attract new teachers to teaching unless there's been a bursary, and
Mm,
we are nationally 38% below target,
wow.
and we're 38% below new teacher training posts compared to last year. And actually, for the first time in a long time, we're not doing very well with recruitment for primary school teachers, because we all know that really, it's interesting. Secondary school PE teachers do the best for recruitment,
Wow.
followed by primary. Um, nobody can get physics teachers. Like, so we've got to kind of offer bursaries. Well, not me personally, the government. But I think the reason um, why it's getting harder is because there is the noise about workload. And on average, primary school teachers now are working 52.1 hours a week.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not very good at maths, but I don't know what point one is there. God, I'll have to, that's
Don't
I
put
don't
me
know how
on
many
the spot
minutes.
like that, Jane.
I'm
Where's my
not, I'm not,
calculator?
I'm not. No, I'm not. But that's a
A
lot of
bit,
hours, isn't
a
it?
bit,
Yeah, 52 hours and a
and a
bit.
bit.
That bit is like, I'll just, oh,
Squeeze
um,
a bit more out.
yeah, 53% of primary school teachers just feel like the workload is unmanageable. So, my sentence sum up is basically what you already know. Like, as teachers, because we care so much about doing a good job, we can easily end up doing too much. And so, what we've got to do, but really, this is like a management got to do. So, if you're in a car and you're on SLT, or maybe you're the super big guns, you're, I mean, head teachers have different names now. I can't, keep up, but super director, bigwig, we've got to basically do less and we've got to do it better. So, we've got to move to a place called de-implementation. Uh, we've got to consider what can be taken off our plate and what can be made easier. And I think in teaching, sometimes we can't see the wood for the trees and we need somebody to really help us. And that's not going to happen by chance. It's quite complex,
Yeah.
taking things down. And that's also got to be thought through. You can't just say, oh, deff it, we're not doing that anymore. It's got to be a bit strategic, and we've got to have a process. It's not simply, I ain't doing that, I'm going to. De-implementation needs a bit of time, planning, and a bit of kind of follow through. And then it's that conversation about, are there things, because actually there might be things that can be stopped immediately, or do some things need scaling back? And I love the language that, I don't know if everybody's found this, that the Education Endowment Foundation use quite a lot for introducing things, but also considering next directions with schools. They talk about things that are tight and
Yeah.
things that are loose. So, like when I'm listening to, like when we're looking at new initiatives, it's like, what in terms of kind of fidelity do we have to be really rigorous and tight about, and which can we be a bit
Okay.
softer? But yeah, I mean, for me, some schools are still doing written feedback for pupils, you know who can't even read. Do you know what I mean? So we're writing stuff down. Is it for them? Because
Who's
they
it
can't even
for?
read it. Who's it for? Or I mean, it's a bit ironic, and I've seen some schools watching. Well, they've been forced to watch well-being webinars, and it's like, if you watch a webinar on it, this is going to support your well-being. Like, that's stupid. Like, we might want to get updated on well-being, but that's not, it doesn't stop there. I watched a webinar, I've been done to, I feel less stress. You won't.
No.
um and then there's just so much in schools that we do have to call out when it's back covering or box ticking that doesn't authentically support pupils' learning. And if you speak to any teacher about sort of um, it's often quite swanky technological assessment pro formas and things, capturing stuff, or sometimes they're still like in files. It's like, oh, I've just got a dream to get rid of these things that don't work. So for me, this isn't the year of yes, it's got to be the year of less.
I
And
like that.
yeah, definitely the year of less. And because so many of our new teachers don't want to stay beyond 5 years, and we want you to stay, and we don't want you to turn into cynical, angry teachers who say things like, if you stand still long enough, it all comes back round. We just want to um we want to make sure that we protect ourselves, because we, the adults in the room, what we know and we do has the highest leverage on pupil progress. So we've got to look after each other. And I just wanted to mention this school, like loads of schools have come back this week, but actually I was working in a school and their first training day was January the 2nd. Like, that's hard. I know. So I was in a school on January the 2nd. Everyone's a bit fragile. It was in Luton, and I've had permission to talk about this school. This school had Ofsted 3 weeks before Christmas. Right.
Ugh.
Horrid. And this school is called Hillborough Junior School. And the day I was there, their Ofsted report arrived. And just when they thought, got to come back on the 2nd of January, they came back to this, and this school's outstanding, and they hadn't been done for a long time because they were outstanding previously, and though they might not have been outstanding this time, but one of the things that was so gorgeous that became the reason they got that label. And I know we're having big conversations about you can't distill schools down to one word, and I know that's another agenda, but can I just read this little moment from the report? Because this, to me, against all the backdrop of negativity about Ofsted, I think there is a true and real sense that they are listening, because the reason why they got an outstanding was because of kindness. Pupils attend a school where excellence is standard. They delight in the many languages spoken in school and love translating for pupils who speak English as an additional language but share the same first language. Yet, it is the language of kindness that is spoken most loudly in this school. Compassionate words and caring actions are in abundance. Pupils share the view that the kindness they bring into the world has a way of boomeranging back to them, making the school and the world a better place.
Wow. Well done to that
And
school.
and you can feel it, can't you? As much as you might say, oh, we know it needs to change, we also know we need an accountability measure. But that school, getting judged to such a high accolade for kindness, I think that's a very brave move on the Ofsted team, and congratulations to them. Well done, Hillborough Junior School in Luton.
Mm. Kindness is, yeah, it sounds like they've been recognised for looking at the child as a whole, which we would very much approve of. Hmm. Thinking about the less on the plate, I feel like we've heard the phrase smarter, not harder for quite a while, but actually that in practice, like you've said, is really quite difficult, and it's a culture shift, isn't it? If you've worked in a place where X is expected of you, and then somebody says, well, actually, we're not doing that now, we're going to shift to this. Actually, weaning some teachers off those things is a job in itself, isn't it? Even though they recognize that they want less on their plate, it's very difficult to judge which plate to stop spinning, isn't it? But steering your ship by thinking about what has the impact on the pupils and the pupils as a whole, not just the data number that sits upon the top of their head, um, is something that should sing, for the leaders in schools, shouldn't it?
Absolutely. And I'm going to put in the show notes a guidance report on de-implementation so
Mm.
that there is this real practical sense of let's just take something away, but think about how we have a strategy around it. So
Mm.
yeah, Heather, have you got something that you want to get off your plate and share with me? Can you sum it up?
Get off my chest. That is not in some snazzy new underwear.
Agent provocateur, just saying, give that a go.
Oh, it's a long time since I've had. Let's not talk about that. Anyway, I've been thinking about over the holidays. There's kind of crackers. We've got jokes. There might be some Christmassy games about, and loads of family quizzes or quizzes on the telly. Quite like a bit of Richard Osman's House of Games. Do you like that one? Bit of a daytime
Yeah.
one, but you can binge it on channels later on, can't you? I love a bit of the answer smash where you have to put two bits together. And I was chiming back a little bit to our chat with Tim Rosinski, and we played the word ladder game. So my sentence is quite simple, Jane. It's let's play with words. So,
Oh,
got a few little ways that we can play with words that just build confidence with pupils and kind of fun. So,
yeah.
first one I want to introduce you to are kangaroo words. Have you heard of kangaroo
No,
words? So,
no.
kangaroo has a joey in the pouch and inside them. So, the kangaroo word is a word that has a synonym inside it. For
Oh,
example, for example,
yeah.
masculine has the word male within it.
Ah,
Chicken
me
has
gets. Yeah.
chicken has the word hen. Honourable
Mm.
has the word noble. Blossom, the word bloom.
Oh,
Encourage has the word urge. Exists is. I could go on, Jane, but aren't they fun?
mm. Yeah, they're really good. I always find it fascinating that the word listen is an anagram of silence.
Mm. Yeah. I think there's lots of play that we can do with words and lots of noticing that we can do for our pupils. Spotted
Yeah,
something on Instagram. See if I've got my
yeah.
glasses on. Let's
Not
Book
silence, by
Huddle
the way,
account.
silent. Sorry, I just
Silence.
changed my
Oh,
mind then. Yeah, sorry.
reverse,
Rewind,
reverse. Let's get.
rewind.
I thought you were
Oh, sorry
pretty
to interrupt you
big
there,
on
honey.
spelling, aren't you, Jane? If anybody wants to work with Jane on
Shut up.
spelling,
Shut up. Just edit that out, whoever's in charge. Ian, edit that
She
out.
she is really good at it. She does know her stuff, people. Anyway,
Oh,
Instagram
God.
saw a post from Let's Book Huddle saying, I hate to break it to you, but if you're an avid reader, you might not be a bookworm. Instead, you might be a book dragon who hoards books like treasure. or a book phoenix who comes to life whenever a book is in hand. Perhaps you're a book bear who doesn't leave the reading chair during winter months, or a book bee buzzing between the multiple unfinished books at once. I thought that was really nice. I thought that was something that you could play with your pupils. I'll leave that with you, Jane. What kind of book animal are you?
Mm.
Spotted
I don't
a
know.
bit of a play on words poem in the Reading for Pleasure Facebook group. John Biddle had shared it was Brian Bilston. It works better on paper, but I'm going to do my best at reading them aloud. It's my year in diets. Veganuary. This one's the tricky one. February. Get your teeth
Yeah,
around that.
got it.
Starch. Capril. Macaroni cheese. June and tonic. July ice cream. August sticky toffee pudding. September. Octoblerone. Quite like that one. Dovember. December. I thought, lots of playful
Yeah.
things that we can do with that. Are you doing dry January, Jane?
Yes, yes, and it's dry, isn't it? It's really crap.
It
Yeah,
just made me
it's
think a
rubbish.
little bit of a previous episode where we were talking about another dry thing that you gave
Yeah,
some advice for some women, but we won't go there. I
no.
saw thinking about words. Sorry,
Thinking about
Miss
fush. Yes, carry on.
Miss Miss Beanie on Instagram had worked with her
Yeah,
class, and she'd posted this great little thing, and also teaching in good company. They'd chosen, instead of a New Year's resolution, which I said I don't do it. You can't stick to it. Having a word that you choose to navigate your year by. So Teaching in Good Company have selected the word nurture for the year. And I thought that was really great. And Miss Feeney with her class had done that, given them loads of words that they could select from, and then created this piece of artwork. So it's like steering the ship of their year. So mine is we use this quite a bit on the podcast actually. Mine's going to be noticing my word of
yes.
the year, and it's about noticing um, about myself, like when I've done stuff well and trying to do more of that. When I didn't respond very well, what happened? What happened there? But also in people, instead of being quick to react, kind of noticing where they're coming from. I think that's going to be my word. But I'm going to put in the show notes a blog from one of the research schools. So if teachers haven't had a look at where their local, their nearest research school is, that's a good thing to do. And what their purpose is to disseminate some of the great research from the Education Endowment Foundation. And there's a blog on Cornwall Research School, and it's about this play with words. And it talks about a teacher called Alison Nimmo at Five Islands Academy on the Isles of Scilly, even further away than me, Jane, and doing some explicit teaching about morphology and etymology. You'd love this.
Oh,
So,
I do love it.
yeah, and it's linked actually. The guidance notes from the EF are linked to primary science and looking at how we can build pupil vocabulary, and that can develop your science teaching. But she'd given them some structures and allowed the kids to have a play with the morphemes and invent some new words. So they came up with some new words, Jane.
Oh, yeah.
Astrovore, a space
Mm,
creature who travels the galaxy eating stars.
lovely.
Chronicide, to kill time. I like that one. And try eruption. a volcano erupting 3 times. And you could see how these kids, had had fun and had a play, but actually they were learning about the chunks of words and how they can piece them together. In the actual guidance, there's an example from year 1 where the children are being taught about herbivore, carnivore, and I thought, you could have a little bit of fun with them, couldn't you, and take it a step further than the teacher and the guidance has done. And you could come up with different vores. You could be a strawberry vor, or a pizza
Mm,
vor, or a cheese or chocolate
mm,
vor, like me.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that. The little chunks of meanings within words. Love that. And
Yeah.
the invention aspect. Yeah, really good.
So I just want to
Yeah.
say to people, how often do you play with words with your class, and being playful, a bit daft, being able to laugh at yourself and feeling comfortable, and encouraging the children to be okay with mistakes, and that actually being something new, and building confidence with words. So have a play with words, everybody.
Yeah, love that. And the other day when I was having my hair done, they've just brought magazines back in my hairdressers because I've really missed them. When you have to read, the latest, Cosmopolitan, whatever it's called, article on how to be a good wife or some crap like that. But yeah, apparently sex is adult playtime, they told me in big font. So yeah, I just thought, we've all got to
Wordplay,
play more.
foreplay. I'll be in the
Oh,
kitchen with my
dear.
new pans.
I'm crying in the kitchen as well. I'm all right. Are you all right? No. Oh
Maybe we
dear.
should
I
move on
tell
to
you what,
our guest, Jane.
yeah, let's do it because actually I know she'll like a pen or two. I'll tell you, I bet she does because she is a handwriting expert.
Yeah, we could ask her about that, can't we, Jane? So we've got Nicky Parr, founder of Better Handwritten Ltd. She works with schools to develop knowledge and systems and provide the ongoing support needed to establish high quality handwriting teaching and achieve transformative results. Shall we get her in?
Oh, yeah, let's go for it.
Hello, Nikki. Welcome to the Teacher Squad podcast. Lovely to have you here.
Oh, well, hello, and thank you so much for inviting me. Really exciting.
We're very excited to have a good old chat to you about handwriting. I'm aware as I'm chatting, I've got my pen in my hand. I'm kind of always ready for business, always ready for a bit of on the go marking. But if you had to pick a pen of choice, I've got a bit of a Sharpie fine line on the go at the moment. Are you a fountain penner, ballpoint, gel pen? What's your pen of choice?
It really depends on what mood I'm in and what I'm using it for. Which could
Go
be a
on, give
variety.
us some examples.
So I've got a really lovely Mont Blanc pen that was a
Oh,
gift. And when I'm doing any kind of longhand sort of writing for myself, book writing, blog writing, I use that.
Nice.
One of my absolute favourites, though, is a really cheap, basic Stadler fine liner. I use it for modelling all my demonstration videos. It's just
Ah,
one of the, it's really smooth and it doesn't bleed because when you're demonstrating, you have to
yeah.
slowly, and so you don't want the ink to be bleeding. But like most people, I've got a drawer full of pens, all colours.
A
Yeah.
graveyard of pens. I quite like a different, when you've got a fountain pen, I quite like a pink or a purple ink.
Yes. Yes. I've got green too.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
mm. I had a turquoise in the 80s when I was at school, and I thought I was so in, with this, array of ink. You can get lilac as well, can't you?
Lilac,
Yeah.
nice.
I don't
Yeah.
remember the
Yeah, yeah.
colours back then, but I do remember spending most of my secondary school life covered in ink. You had to write in fountain pen. If you forgot your pen, you had to go and pay 30p for one at the library. And yeah, I
Mm.
just had a pot of ink, and I was frequently covered in spots of it.
Yeah, I remember working at Budgeon's supermarket, and it was my first Saturday job as a Saturday girl, and we wore A-line Hessian, orange and brown, big long collared, sort of not it's not costume, is it? What is that called? Staff
A
uniform.
uniform.
And thanks, honey.
Lots
And
of
I
people have
left there.
real jobs, Jane. They don't dress up and pretend. You know, it's real life.
And I had a fountain pen in my pocket, and on my first shift I had like blue ink all across my midriff, bleeding from one pocket, and I thought, oh, I'll sort this out at home with a Brillo pad.
Oh
And they wouldn't give
no.
me another. I know, yeah, rubbish. So yeah, from that day was never a fan of the old fountain pen. But what I wanted to ask Nicky, I don't even know if this is related to handwriting. Have you got a favourite font on a computer?
Oh.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. So Calibri is the one I use for all of my work. But to be honest, it's a bit like, when you go to the supermarket for a jar of pasta sauce, and there's just 100 types, and you spend 20
Yeah,
minutes just trying to decide which one. I'm finding it like that with fonts now. There are so many,
yeah,
aren't there? And so
yeah. But is there a font that replicates good handwriting style? I mean, is there one out there? I mean, is it Infant Sassoon? Is that the best one? I never know for a
the thing,
teacher.
the thing I've come to is, and based on some of the research by Karen James, who's in America, um, early on when young children are learning letters and learning formations and recognizing and getting them locked into memory, they need lots and lots of handwritten examples. Once those examples are locked in, we don't need to keep replicating a font that's imitating handwriting.
Ah.
Mm,
You
wow,
get it
that's a
yourself.
bit of a
You can
And
you can
that's
what's
a
that?
game changer.
you
Yeah,
can
it
read
is.
anything, can't you? Like, you can read anything. A new font. I mean, some of them are quite tricky to read actually because they're a bit arty and things. But yeah, once your brain has done that pattern seeking and it's encoded, that representation. There was a time when I go into schools and people felt they had to have all of their displays in a font that mimicked handwriting, and we don't, and children need that variety as well.
Oh, I like that.
Wow. So
Indeed. People scribbling and rapidly changing their display policies as we not in your car, people, not on your commute.
But it's a symptom, isn't it, of, like, because we really feel we've got to be doing the right thing, and we don't always, we can sometimes assume the right thing. And this is where some of the research that's coming out, and there's not as much as I'd love to see yet on handwriting, but there is some really key stuff there, which is great, particularly around,
so
sorry, that what I just said there about the early encoding. It's this link to reading, and it's recognizing and sort of making sure that we all understand just how important the handwriting role is in learning to read.
and tell us more about that, because I've been reading about that myself lately, and you'll be an expert at that very specifically with the link with handwriting.
Well, what I do
Can you
is,
tell us? Yeah.
for me, yeah, this is my focus, isn't it? So there's so many things, and I have this privilege of focusing on handwriting every day and sort of really niching down, and I've still got so much to learn despite where I am. But that's kind of what I do. I'm working to find this way to bridge and share that information so that people can, really feel confident in their practice in classrooms. But yeah, this is as I said, it's the early encoding. So what I've come to understand is that if you think about the way our brains have evolved, we've been speaking for, or making sounds for such a long time, 100,000, 200,000 years. Writing, we only developed about 5,000 years ago. And so our brains have evolved to be able to perform this skill. It's a very complex skill, one of the most complex, like reading, that we ask young children to develop. So yeah, an area of the brain basically recycled itself. So the part of the brain that we use for facial recognition, for object recognition, which very much involves mirroring, is recycled, and that's where our letter recognition gets stored. So so that's the first, first part in the pathway for learning to read, isn't it? And that sensory movement, the way that the whole body is involved in forming the shapes of letters, is really important. When we're typing, it's fantastic, and I'm a big tech fan. It's keyboard, it's a different skill. We're touching flat keys, and our brains aren't getting that sensory feedback from the shape formations.
Interesting that you talk about the typing. There would be some, I'm going to go devil's advocate on there, who say, well, do we still need to continue to focus on handwriting? In year 6, when we do writing assessment, there's a firm judgment in there about the writing being joined. Is that important? Do we need to focus on that, or is there a point before where we can say, well, they've got to this stage and that's okay, because in the future they can type, they can dictate? Where do you stand on that?
Well, I think the overall thing is, when you look at the way the curriculums are set up, all of the guidance, and there is some really good guidance, hidden in plain sight throughout documentation, that is going right from the start and leading up to children being able to use cursive in England by the time they leave primary school. And then there's nothing at secondary. And of course, that's based on an assumption that they will have developed the skill by the time they leave primary. What's tending to happen is we don't have adequate, or sometimes even any, teacher training on handwriting. I think there's an assumption that because we can all write, we can teach handwriting, but it's actually more complex. There's a lot of background knowledge and support in terms of putting systems in place that is needed. So in answer to your question, what I would like to see is children, if we don't have it in, then people won't teach it. That's the bottom line. If you take it out, it will just disappear, and it won't get taught, because we're so under pressure. The curriculum's so loaded. If we can let something go, we will. But there is evidence in terms of it supporting spelling. I'm thinking specifically in terms of cursive here, and just handwriting in general. That the way that it slows us down is something that's really key. So typing, transcription, very, very quick. My analogy is always, if you imagine like a jet ski skimming across the top of the water and the spray going everywhere, we need, typing is great for that. But if we want to sort of go deep and, allow our thinking to really surface, then handwriting's got a really important role to play. And I think teaching handwriting isn't just about how it looks on the page. It's about helping children understand the ways that we can benefit from it. And we can only do that if we understand that as teachers. So, yeah, I would, ultimately, we want to teach children cursive, and then they will move to part cursive, which is what we all use as adults.
Yeah, I don't want you to
That's
see
interesting.
my handwriting.
I thought as an adult, by being part cursive, also it was almost like naughty that we were lazy and we'd kind of dropped all the cursive things we'd learned. But
Right.
actually recognizing that as almost that's where it evolves to. And then going back to that thing, Nicky, you said about reading, is it, and are we as teachers in a place where we're trying to get fluency in reading and we're all working on that around the country. And it's the next thing that we want is kind of fluency in handwriting. Is it about, look, if it's fluent, then your ideas can flow
Oh,
on the
absolutely.
page.
Absolutely, but it's a little bit more complicated than that, because it's such a complex
Damn.
skill. We young children, they're still developing, aren't they? In their visual perception is still developing, their whole ability to control their bodies is still developing. This is why these underpinning gross motor skills, where they're using their whole bodies and developing core strength, and then their hand-eye coordination, all of these things that have been affected to some degree through the pandemic experience, of course. It's definitely about getting this skill automated so that it's not taking up, any of their capacity in working memory. And the biggest thing I think that can get in the way for children is anxiety. You just said, Heather, I think, I don't want to show you my handwriting.
Listen, I've got a fantastic front of the class. Look at this beautiful model. I'm shared writing. I'm, doing my thinking.
Yeah,
but on a
yeah.
day-to-day basis, it's scrawl.
Yeah, and that's natural. That's all of us. I mean, I think but we've got to really think about this sense of judgment. I mean, I went into school one day and was just being shown around the classrooms, and the displays, fantastic, loads of wonderful teacher handwriting, loads of great kids handwriting. And I'd been into one room, and then the teacher ran down the corridor after me, and she said, when you've finished looking around, would you mind coming back and showing me your handwriting? And I
Your
was
handwriting.
like, my handwriting. Yeah, well,
Under
if you're going into
pressure.
school, if you're going into school to like, and my heart, I was literally thinking, oh, sure, no.
I did it with a shaky hand. It's my preferred font, Wibble Wobble.
I try and make it clear to people that, my writing is functional. It's the whole point for me is you got to feel okay with your handwriting. There's that emotional thing to really think about. We need it to be legible so you can read it back yourself and other people can read it. And you want it to be useful, because if you feel bad about handwriting, you're not going to use it. You're not going to use it for list making. I think I heard you on one episode, Jane, saying about you couldn't think if you don't write and doodle. And yeah, you're nodding. And
I can't
again,
think full stop today.
again, this has been shown in research that the writing by hand helps us with processing information, helps with creativity. I guess that's slowing down, that allows this stuff to rise. So yeah, there's a whole host of things, but judgment. And I think I was a class teacher for 24 years. And that feeling of knowing someone's going to come in and may make a snap judgment about your children and you as a teacher just by looking at your book. So there's a lot of a big sense of judgment, and that's one of the things that I work really hard to do, is to let go of judgment and let's replace it with interest and curiosity. So
in classrooms, what is it that teachers could really focus on? So our listeners range in their teaching experience. So maybe if we've got an ECT and they're thinking, this is really making me think about handwriting. I thought it was just this add-on we do for 15 minutes a day. They're kind of going, okay, this is really important, this. What are some of the key things that they can focus on, from tomorrow in the classroom this week?
So the main things that I support with are developing knowledge, but then very much helping put systems in place. I'm a big fan of James Clear. I don't know if you know of him. With his book Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits, yeah.
He's got a great quote, which is, we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And what I would encourage people to do is just, go in tomorrow or go in and think about your systems for practicing handwriting. Like, when do you do it? Is it consistent? what's happening. So I always, when I do training, I think give people a handwriting, a book to be a handwriting journal, or encourage them to get one. And the first thing is just to start noticing. Again, I think you had a nice phrase for, what we do as teachers. You have a noticing necklace, like it's catching those
Yes.
moments, noticing what's going on. And we often don't have time, or we don't think we've got time to do that. But you can't teach handwriting if you don't see what's happening.
Yeah.
So my first bit of advice would be, get yourself a nice notebook, call it your handwriting journal, and just start to watch what's going on, and think about the systems you've got in place, the systems that the options.
Nikki, do you, I am listening ever so intently, and just remembering that Ofsted told me I had awful handwriting. I don't know whether to wear that with a badge of honour. I don't know, it's like, wow, yeah. I mean, it was atrocious, but, actually, since being told that, I have done a lot of reflection on, because that was donkeys years ago, actually, about handwriting. And in the slowing down, do you promote, and I don't know if you have an opinion about this, but this idea of almost like a ditty or a patter? So if it was the letter B, start at the top, go down slow, halfway up, round you go. I mean, does it help children if they've got these little rhymes in terms of letter formation to help them?
Yeah, you'll see in any of the phonics schemes where there is a requirement for handwriting to be included. There will always be the ditties, little rhymes to help. There's a couple of things with that. I mean, with my demonstration videos, I do directional instructions. So I would go like, start just under the line above, down, bump, back up and over and round to touch. So I give very specific instructions, sort of directional instructions, and encourage children to be saying those quietly out loud, or to themselves. So they're instructing the hand until it becomes automatic. I think sometimes we've got to be just mindful with the ditties. You've got to think about where, if they're related, for example, to mountains and animals and things, making sure the children really can see what we think they see,
Yeah.
and then deciding at what point you can move away from that, because it will help to a point. But in terms of children, one of the things that doesn't often get addressed initially, we tend to think always of the letter formation, but we need to be very aware of spatial awareness and teaching children how to use the lines. That's where I always
Mm.
start as well, because often they are writing between lines. Some children actually write their writing through the lines. And that's just
Finger
evidence that
spaces.
that's
Yeah.
just that they, no spaces, big
Mm.
spaces. I've just added a whole section on spacing to my resource library. Yeah.
Mm.
So what we're doing in all of these things, whether we're demonstrating, whether we're talking, whether we're saying, we're basically helping them to focus their attention and awareness. And we see so many examples where clearly that hasn't happened, because they've done the best they can and ended up forming a letter in their own way. And then they've repeated that and it's become automatic. So much of the work I'm doing is helping to then unpick those issues and help them form letters in a way that's useful for joining and that are clear to read.
And as I'm listening there, it makes me reflect that actually probably many Key Stage 2 teachers, if there are already very precise kind of directional bits of advice for letter formation that have been used lower down in the school, do we know about them, in
Yeah.
year 5 and 6? Because I think, we know of so many kids who are doing kind of weird letter reversals or starting in strange places. And I never know actually, even as an adult, what I should be doing with an S and an F in terms of joins or partly cursive, and that can change as well if you move schools. And then you can have some schools that are very, very particular about how they produce letters, and then that can almost cause your own form of stress, can't it? Especially if your marriage is on the rocks, and then the letter F can tip you over the edge. Nightmare.
Absolutely. I think we have to, again, you have to bring it back to like functionality and, being being realistic. Because also once you've got children with that kind of very uniform, if you like, script that we've taught them through primary, I always then, once they're confident with that, I encourage them to start to make personal changes, because one of the wonderful things about handwriting is just how it's part of our identity. And I can remember as a teenager, changing the way I formed S's, and it was the age of, wasn't it, putting little circular dots or hearts above letters, and you start to flex your handwriting muscles when you get to be a teenager. You kind of you make choices.
Figuring out your signature and then
Yeah.
scraping it with your compass into the top of your tin pencil case. That's what everyone did, didn't they? Not just me.
Yeah, a few trees as well.
Can I ask you one controversial question? This is my last question for you. And people fall on different sides. Jane's talked about, this dodgy marriage. This can split up colleague friendships. And you can answer this with a one-word answer, or you can tell us a little bit more. But I'm going to ask you this question: pen licenses, yes or no?
No.
Oh.
Are you just going to just leave it on the no?
No, I am gonna. I genuinely, I've got a blog on this, and I understand the premise. I understand the idea is to like motivate and make children aspire to something, but actually, it's just not fair. It's not a fair playing field, and it's actually shaming for children who don't achieve them, and that stays with them. Right, I work with adults too, and there are people who feel that anger about it years later. It stays with them, and that's not what we're in the business of doing, is it? We're not in the business of shaming, and we're in the business of teaching. So absolutely not.
No, nobody wants to be 41 and still working for their pen license, do they? Please, can I have one, Jane?
No. Keep putting hearts on top of your eyes, young lady.
I am not that
It's really
frivolous.
frustrating as well. Is it's expecting children to write in a way in pencil before they can use a pen. How can you learn to use a tool if you're not allowed to, let your brain calibrate and get used to it? But again, I've been into a couple of schools. Sometimes children in year 5 are still writing in pencil because the teachers are. And it's, again, I'm not saying this is the fault of the teacher. It just shows how the teachers are feeling. It's like they're worried that the books will start to look messy. I've even seen schools where they've started in pen and taken them away. But you've got to go through the messy bit, haven't you? You've got to go through it. You've got to let it all.
God, that's worse than a pen license. You had it and you had it taken off you. Oh
Trauma.
My goodness.
Need counselling afterwards.
It's fear-based, isn't it? It's fear-based.
Oh dear.
Oh God.
Well, thank you, Nicky. You have really, truly given us a lot to think about, and actually some very practical ways forward. I think there's so much more we can do as teachers to kind of get under the skin of some practical guidance for kids to hook onto. And I do think in Key Stage 2 particularly, we can't assume that it's going to be okay, and we need to find lots of ways to kind of make those small changes and that slowing down that you talk about, and noticing what they need to be that little bit better. So thank you, Nicky. Lots of practical advice.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Nikki. We are going to put the link in the show notes, but look out for Nikki's new podcast coming very soon called, what's it called, Nikki?
Handwriting Matters.
Handwriting Matters. So where you can have lots more information about handwriting. Thank you so much for joining us, Nikki.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Thank you, Nikki. So, Heather, I've done a lot of reflecting over the Christmas, actually, and I honestly could not believe, and I really do think it's getting worse, the price of food. And it made me think ever such a lot about actually how are families coping. I mean, vegetable oil has gone up by 68%. They say was £1.40 last year, is now £3.97.
Ridiculous.
Quaker oats are going through the roof. They were £1 last year, now £3.50, and utterly butterly was a quid, is now £1.95. I mean, we say it very glibly, the cost of living crisis, but since April, a basket of food has risen by 23.9%. I mean, grocery prices are soaring. And this year, rewind 2022 to 2023, more than 800,000 patients were admitted for malnutrition or nutritional deficiencies.
Yeah.
Now, food insecurity is so real, and UNICEF has examined relative child poverty, and between 2012 and 2021, the UK is the worst performer among 39 countries. It's just disgusting.
Yeah.
And we've got, this is a failure of the government. It's utterly catastrophic, and the government have never even stepped into a state school, and they cannot even be bothered to do anything about food insecurity and ensure kids have hot meals. So many families are falling through the net. It's just so sad.
It's
The
heartbreaking.
food prices, it is heartbreaking. It's just awful, and something needs to be done quickly. Come on, a general election, that's all I'm saying. There you go. It made me think, though, when I was at school, and in year 5, the equivalent of year 5, it wasn't called that then, and that was 1981. We read a book as a class called this, The Family from One End Street. And this is a really interesting book, because it's sort of been grafted on my mind, but I've only recently picked it up again, and I've got very fond memories of this, and going back to have a look at it, it's actually it's a real rollicking read. It's kind of episodic, and it's about a dustman and his wife who are proud of their 7 kids. It's a life of one big happy family, and there's so. And this is just a line from it. This is a great line from it. The dustman and his wife were proud of their numerous girls and boys, and it's all hyphenated now. This whole thing's hyphenated. All growing up, fine and strong, one behind the other, like steps in a ladder. And the hyphens are like steps in a ladder. And there's tons of them. And it was first published in 1937, and
Wow.
it's basically it's like working class hero kids and their lives, and it's a complete opposite to Enid Blyton's, lashings of ginger beer and golly gosh, and spam sandwiches, and it's completely nostalgic and charming. And Lily Rose helps her mum out with her laundry business, and Lily Rose often mucks things up, and here's a little moment of her mucking it up. Now, Lily Rose had heard much about the difficulties and dangers of ironing artificial silk, and although she had never attempted such a thing before, she was not deterred. This great thing she knew was not to be done with an iron that was too hot. So she spread out the petticoat carefully, took what she thought to be a cool iron from the stove, and began. She made one long sweep up and down with the iron, and oh, what is happening? The petticoat was shrinking and shrinking and shrivelling up, running away before her very eyes. Smaller and smaller it grew, while Lily Rose gazed, fascinated, as if rooted to the spot, and her eyes and mouth round O's of horror. Yeah, but she mucks loads of things up. She shrinks a jumper, and her brother Joe goes, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." And the sleeves, they're all wrong. And it's just like the chaos of the kids trying to help out, just mucking it up all the time. I mean, I really, I loved it when I was young, and then coming back to it, it was just great to come back to. But a lot of chat in
Nice.
that book about how the family make ends meet, and
Yeah.
and it's just, it's like 1937. It feels like it's in the arc, but we're dealing with things that are tougher and harder, actually, I'd
Yeah.
say, nowadays.
I think that extract, though, is a good advert for banning irons. You know, I'm a big believer in just shake it out. Shake it out. I'm
Yeah,
so
I
classy, Jane.
actually, oh man, I've got my stiff collars on that have been starched and ironed precisely. I mean, we
Yeah,
are the yin and yang, you know. And my
certainly are.
agent provocateur bra is digging in me skin. But you do you, babe.
That's my favourite
Who's
phrase of yours,
crying
Jane.
more?
You do you,
Who's
babe.
crying more? Me. I'm crying more.
Shall
Don't
I tell you
care.
about my book that I brought today, Jane?
Yeah, will ya?
This
Will
this
ya?
little book came out at the back end of last year. 23 is now last year, and it
Yeah.
caught my eye in the bookshop. Just holding it up, it's got a bit of a foil on the thing, so it's a bit blinging. So it's Oscar's Lion by Adam Barron, and it's illustrated by Benji Davis. So it's a lovely little hardback with a nice dust jacket, and it's a nice little size. It's quite quick read if you're in lower key stage 2. I'm going to read you the beginning where Oscar wakes up and discovers a lion where his mum and dad should be. And it kind of made me think that you could make links to the tiger who came to tea. And do those kind of I wonder what it would be like if this animal came to your house. I wonder what kind of day out you'd have. With that creature, or what characteristics would they have? It does deal with some grandparent loss and grief. It's a little bit quirky, and I kind of like that. It was something different. It's kind of a bit layered to it. There's things that will wash over some children's heads, and the grandparents have come over as migrants to Britain, fleeing from Nazis in the wartime. So there's little references to that. And one of the things that I really like about it is that Oscar has a picture book that is his favourite, and he can read harder stuff than that, but he loves this book and comes back to it. And there's a part in it where the lion reads it to him with all the voices, and when it's finished, he doesn't say no more. He reads it to him 5 times over, and there's just a sense of giving of time with that. I asked some of the Reading Rocks community on Twitter about what they were reading to their class, and there was a teacher that said that they'd read this with their class as one of their previous reads. So she sent me. So she's from Galleons Primary School in Beckton in East London. Now, this little review from one of the girls who absolutely loved it in a year 4 class contains a bit of a spoiler. So I'm going spoiler alert. If you don't want to know what happens at the end, and it's right at the end that we're revealed about this, then close your ears now. I think this book was very fun and imaginative. Who knew a boy's granddad could be a lion? This story was exciting, action-packed, funny, and just amazing. Because of how much description there was in the story, it was very easy to imagine and play out in my head. Every single emotion had lovely descriptions: anger, sadness, joy. Each and every moment was valued. The story idea it felt magical, and I never read a book quite like this. Oscar's lion was so real, I felt as though I was Oscar myself. This story was fun and enjoyable. I hope other people like it too. Oscar's line was very nice, and I had a fun time reading it. I could read it 50 times and not get bored. I thought that was a lovely little review. So I'm just going to read a tiny bit from chapter 1. When Oscar woke up that Friday morning, he had no idea that a massive and very wild animal had entered his house. He'd been dreaming, images rushing through his mind like a raging river. The dream had seemed important, as dreams can, and he tried to hold on to the churning pictures. They vanished, though, so he sat up, reached over to his bedside table and grabbed it. Not just a book, the book, his complete and absolute favourite, Mac and the Lost Truck. Oscar stared at the shiny cover. The book was too young for him now, but he didn't care because it was special. He got out of bed, about to run along the landing to his parents' room. Then he stopped. Odd. On a school day, Oscar's parents normally woke him up at 7:15, but the clock on his wall said 7:25. They must have overslept. So Oscar hurried towards their bedroom door, clutched the handle and turned it. He pushed the door open, expecting, of course, to see the familiar sleeping forms of his mum and dad. 2 long mountain ranges that he still loved climbing on. But Oscar did not see his parents lying there. Their duvet was quite flat, and sitting on it was something that stopped Oscar in his tracks, so that all he could do was stare. A lion. A very big and very male lion. Ah, said the lion, turning to look at Oscar. Oscar didn't reply. He simply couldn't, of course. He just blinked, and the lion's massive head and shaggy black mane, at the huge paw the lion had been licking, was now setting back down on the bed in slight embarrassment. Oscar scanned the bedroom, taking in some bits of paper held down by a paperweight on his mum's dressing table, and a chair on which a pile of clean washing was tottering, waiting to be put away. When he turned back to the bed, the lion grimaced in an apologetic sort of way and winced at him. There's the lion.
I'll tell you what. There's a lot, isn't there, of parent-animal replacements. I'm thinking of Gorilla and Anthony Brown. You know, it's like an intertextuality link. It's that thing you said about the tiger that came to tea, you know, finding similar sort of images and tropes in stories. And I think as our reading curriculums get better, kids love doing that, you know, like those wider connections, you know, the web of reading from who and who's got a lion in their bed and all of that jazz.
In Agent Provocateur underwear. And on that note, baby, you know, maybe we should say goodbye and leave that image with everybody.
Yeah, I think so. Well, it's always a pleasure, Heather. When I get down to your neck of the woods, I'm going to do some ironing for you and take you to a lingerie shop. But in the meantime, it's big love
From Heather and Heartbursts.
from Jane. See you next week.
See you, everyone.